night at a little late this time around. But like I said, most of the times on Friday evenings we do a family movie night, and normally the kids are up here settling in, and they get a little sleepover up here in the man cave. Tonight, one of them is at their grandparents' house, and the other one was here and requested a family game night. So we were playing on the Switch until it was their bedtime, which they have gone to right now. So I have the ability to stream, and so I will, because I know that's what y'all want to see. Y'all want to see my beautiful face on here reading the Bible and telling you all about Jacob and the reasons why we are conflicted about his status in the Bible. I've talked to a couple of people recently, and maybe I'll get into this in a second. Let me first get all this set up and sharing it on my page. Facebook gives me way too many steps to do this. It's a little silly. But there we go. All right, so we're shared. So pick up where we left off last, and we had Jacob. Jacob has taken over. Isaac has died, I believe, at this point. Maybe he hasn't. I don't think we actually read that he died, but he's an old man. And we have Jacob. So Jacob is a key figure in the Bible. He's right in that line. He's more of a role in the Bible than Isaac is. But you go from basically Adam, then Noah, then Abraham. Isaac's in there for a little bit, and then you got Jacob. All right, so we've had a big kind of a big long run with Jacob right here. But the difference between all those folks and Jacob is that Jacob isn't like Adam slipped and messed up big time. But with Jacob, it seems like it's just, act after act. He's a very difficult person to like at this point, because he's got a twin brother. He's basically extorted the inheritance out of his older twin brother. He then lies to his dad Isaac, pretending to be his brother, so he gets a blessing. So he's done this all for his own personal gain, and I don't know. That doesn't seem all very honorable to me. Now when he did that at his mom's bidding, but at the same time, it's not a very honest thing to do. So then after that, his brother, who has had it with him, says, well, when Dad dies, I'm just going to kill him. So his mom hears that, so sends Jacob off to go under the pretense of getting a wife, which was his plan. So Jacob goes and gets a wife. He finds it. He meets this woman he wants to marry at the well, to watering the camels, and immediately is enamored with her. They start kissing each other immediately, it seems like, and then so he goes to the father's house, which is actually his uncle. So this is like a cousin thing. Anyway, so he agrees. He agrees to let them marry, and then on the wedding night, he actually sends the older daughter to him instead of the younger daughter, which is who he wanted to marry. And so, again, we assume that Jacob has had too much to drink and doesn't know what's the difference. Until in the morning, he rolls over and it's Leah, not Rebecca, or is it Rachel? I think it's Rebecca. I can't remember. There's so many R's at this point. I think it's Rebecca. It's Leah in the bed, and he's like, what is going on here? Now, he worked for 7 years to get this marriage. That was part of the agreement between him and his uncle. Worked 7 years to get this marriage, and so he goes out and says, what's all this about? And his uncle goes, well, I really needed to marry her off first, so you can have her first. But if you work for me another 7 years, I'll go ahead and let you marry the other girl after a week of y'all's honeymoon. So he does. He agrees to that, and then this becomes into this exchange between him and his uncle Laban, where they're both like trying they're both scamming each other out of things. Between one's not paying the other what they're owed. His uncle has already scammed him out, scammed him into 14 years of labor, and Jacob's like switching, agreeing to take certain animals, but then breeding them in a certain way so that he gets the leg up, and then finally Jacob bolts, and Laban chases after him. And he stole some stuff. He did steal some stuff. His wife actually did the stealing, and Jacob didn't know. But and then there's this whole exchange. But in the end, they agreed that the best thing to do is for them to part ways. They part ways on good terms. And that was the end of our story at that point. But like I said, at this point, Jacob's kind of a shifty dude. Now, again, he's very obedient when it comes to what God's talking about. Now, this is what we've seen so far with this blessed line from Abraham, and before him with Noah. It's an honorable people that are, well, in the sense that God tells them to do something and they go and do it. And really, at the end, you can't ask that. If you're going to have a trait that you're going to follow, that's the one: being obedient, loving God, praising Him, being obedient. And He does all these things. So I think that at the end, or I think that what we have with Jacob is a guy that's kind of relatable to us, because maybe we're not a dishonest people, but we're not perfect either, and we're not these super righteous folks. But a lot of us actually can relate to Jacob in the fact that from time to time we are dishonest, and time to time we do selfish things, and sometimes we run from those things. But that doesn't mean that that God is going to shun us. And Jacob's part of that plan that God has. So and Jacob remains obedient. So that's telling us that a lot of folks, and I've talked about this before, a lot of folks are afraid to go to church or afraid to become a Christian out of guilt of what they've done, or the fear of doing something that they will feel guilty about because it's against what the rules that God gives us. When that's not really what should be your concern. Your concern should always be that you're being obedient, but you shouldn't be defeating yourself in your own walk to Christ or with Christ, because you're stumbling along the way. Jacob, like I said, Jacob's got a lot of character flaws in him, but we all have a lot of character flaws. So in many ways, we can relate to Jacob in his imperfection and his lack of righteousness for the most part. But again, obedient to God, and so now we're going to see where that lands him going forward. So Jacob's going back to his homeland, where his brother still is, and so we'll pick up there with chapter 32 in Genesis. For those of you, I haven't mentioned this in a while, this is Bible Gateway. I think it's the best online resource as far as biblical text. It's better than apps on smartphones. I know that some people use Bible app. This is better. Just go into Safari or the Google search or whatever, and go through there. You'll be much better off with this, folks. It's just easier to navigate. It's got tons of translations. It's got resources on the side, introductions, notes, stuff like this that you can put together. It's awesome. So highly recommend Bible Gateway. I think you'll love it. I know I do, and this is what I'm going to use. So if you don't like that, tough. Anyway, chapter 32. Jacob prepares to meet Esau. Jacob also went on his way. They were talking about Laban going his way, his uncle. So Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of God." So he named the place Mahanaim. Mahanaim. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. He instructed them, "This is what you are to say to my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says, I have been staying with Laban and have remained there till now. I have cattle and donkeys, sheep and goats, male and female servants. Now I am sending this message to my lord, that I might find favor in your eyes." When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, We went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him. That's quite a posse. That's quite a welcoming committee, especially when the last terms that you left with, he said he was going to kill you. So now you've told him you've had all these great things, and he's coming with men. In great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people who were with him into two groups, and the flocks and herds and camels as well. He thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. Okay? Not putting all his chickens in one basket. God likes wise people. This is a wise move by Jacob. He's generally just clever or wily in the sense that, people are people who do the things that Jacob have done are clever in doing. But what would comfort me in this is that angels came to meet me. So I already know that God's got my back in this. So I don't know where the anxiety and fear come at this point. But look, it's your brother and 400 men. Then Jacob prayed, O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, who said to me, go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper. I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness that you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become two camps. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper, and will make your descendants like the sands of the sea, which cannot be counted. He makes a prayer, and he's very humble in this. Jacob's probably pretty aware of his actions, and probably knows that they're dishonorable. Maybe he's impulsive. Maybe that's part of Jacob's problem. He's impulsive. He wants something. He goes and does it, and he doesn't really care who's in the way. Maybe he's reflecting on this. He's much older at this point. He did those first two things with his brother, 14 years before, or even more than that, but several years. Look, better part of 2 decades. He did this stuff, and now he's on the way to meet this man, and he knows what he's done to him has been wrong. But he prays to God and he's being obedient still because he knows Esau wants to kill him and he knows Esau has 400 men, but he's still going forward. But what does he do? He does what he's told and he prays and asks for forgiveness because he understands what he's done. The problem isn't what God told him to do. The problem was what Jacob did to put himself in this situation. He says he's not worthy. And out of all the folks, including his brother, he seems like the least worthy. But humility has a value and a worthiness to itself. Well, good on you, Jacob. He spent the night there, and from what he had with him, he selected a gift for his brother Esau, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the care of his servants, each herd by itself, and said to his servants, go ahead of me, and keep some space between the herds. That's probably a pretty considerable gift. And we don't know exactly how big Jacob's flock is, but back then, at that point, we're talking about, that's a hefty price. And this is back when, gold had a significant value, but also livestock, because these are things that you can sell and live off of at the same time. He instructed the one in the lead, when my brother Esau meets you and asks, who do you belong to, and where are you going, and who owns all of these animals in front of you? Then you are to say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us. And there's another thing to notice. Jacob refers to himself in regards to Esau as Esau's servant. Again, we're seeing some humility. Jacob's not being too bad here. I've been very hard on Jacob. I think he's deserved it. But, again, we're supposed to have grace on people, especially when they're trying to change for the better. And Jacob is showing this. So, and who am I to judge Jacob? I've done bad things myself. I feel like maybe I'm actually a worse person than Jacob is. But at the same time, it's hard. When you read the Bible, you expect all these folks to be heroes and perfect. And there are some guys who are awesome in the Bible. Just flat out awesome. But we're all. I come into this channel and title it Flawed Man because I think that that's what we are. There are some folks who are mightily righteous, but in the end, some of the biggest heroes in the Bible have their own sins that they live with, and they either let it get to them and rule them, or they overcome it, accept it, ask for forgiveness, ask for strength from God, and move past it. That's where it all comes down to. Once you become a Christian, really, once you've decided that you're going to follow behind Jesus, it all comes down to what's going to happen in the aftermath of that. When you sin, because you will, when you sin, are you going to fall into the trap of letting it rule over you, or are you going to get past it? And there might be times, and there might be things that sins that you are able to get over, which I have, and then there are going to be sins that you are letting define you, which I also have. It's difficult. It's a difficult thing to manage, but that's why grace is such an important thing, and that's why grace exists. So good. So right now, I'm happy with Jacob right now. And like I said, you hear me being hard on him. I'm hard on him because I'm comparing him to his father and his father's father and those folks. So he also instructed the second and the third and all the others who followed the herds. You are to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him, and be sure to say, your servant Jacob is coming behind us. For he thought, I will pacify him with these gifts I am sending on ahead. Later, when I see him, perhaps he will receive me. So Jacob's gifts went on ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. Here comes maybe the oddest moment in the Bible. Like, flat out, just most spectacular, fantastical, and just weird moment in the Bible, I think. And if you think there's a different, better, an odder one, let me know. Jacob wrestles with God. So right now, already off the bat, you know something. This is going to be wild. That night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, Let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go until you bless me, unless you bless me. The man asked him, What is your name? Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. Jacob said, Please tell me your name. But he replies, Why do you ask my name? Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. Jacob wrestles with God. And it appears it's a draw. In fact, you have God saying, Hey, it's time for me to go. Let me go. I really want to know the purpose of this. God comes in physical man form, and it's not Jesus. This is God coming in physical form, wrestling with Jacob, who's wrestling back with him. And he gets blessed, and he gets a new name, and his new name is Israel. And I don't think I have to break it down how significant God renaming you Israel is. And Jacob's floored. And they said, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. And that's what he has. He's struggled with many people and himself. And I think that it's not specific there. It doesn't specify that. But I think that's another thing. Jacob struggles with himself, because I think that's why he came to God and prayed and was humble about his problems and why he was not worthy of the blessings that were being bestowed upon him. And then the blessing that gets bestowed upon him. He's being called Israel. This is going to become very important very soon, and even to this day. And then they don't eat the tendon anymore near the hip. I mean, I'm not eating people, but if it's a pig, I'm going to do it. But I'm not held to those standards. That's a story for another time. But so now we've gotten past the wrestling match. Jacob meets Esau. Here's the showdown. Jacob looked up, and there was Esau coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the 2 female servants. The 2 female servants do have names. He put the female servants and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. Okay, so obviously the significance here is he's putting the kids of his female servants in front. So if anything's going to happen to them, they're going to get it first. Leah and her kids next, and Leah's got a lot of kids. And Rachel, his favorite, and her one son are in the very back, so they got the best chance of escaping, I guess, or the best chance of not dying. Leia's probably really irritated about this. That's another thing from Les. If you weren't paying attention, Leia is having is very aware that she is not the wife that Jacob wanted. So she keeps having kids going. And it's not like, hey, I want kids. Maybe she does. She doesn't say it in here, but she says, oh, I've had this kid. Now Jacob will love me. Now I've had another kid. Now my husband will love me. Oh, here's my 6th kid. Now my husband will love me. Not as much as Rachel. And I called her Rebecca. It was Rachel. So not as much as Rachel. Not as much as Joseph. Joseph's the man. There's your foreshadowing. Joseph's the man. So he puts them in the rear. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. It's apparently something to do. 7, and every time you see 7, it's generally something holy attached to it. If there's 7 in the Bible. But he's the man of the house. He's the man. He's the father. He's going on in front. This is important. I think that's a good gesture. That's the obvious gesture. If you're the father, you lead it up on the way. You don't put women and children as a barricade behind to hide behind. You're the man. You take it. Plus, also, your whole fear behind this is what you did anyway. This is all you're making. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Then Esau looked up and saw the women and children. Who are these with you? He asked. Jacob answered, they are the children God has graciously given your servant. Then the female servants and their children approached them and bowed down. Next, Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. Esau asked, what's the meaning of all these flocks and herds I met? To find favor in your eyes, my lord, he said. But Esau said, I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself. No, please, said Jacob. If I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God, now that you have received me favorably. Please accept the present that was brought to you, for God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need. And it is because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. And Esau said, let's be on our way. I'll accompany you. That's a little anticlimactic, right? We think that there's going to be this big conflict, and how is it going to shake out? Well, better part of 2 decades again. That's how long Jacob's been gone. That's a long time for his brother's anger to subside. And his brother has prospered. He has plenty. He said, I already have plenty. But he doesn't know that at the time. But his brother's had time to cool off. His brother's situation is good. And he probably misses Jacob. And they're twins, right? And while they're very different in many respects, they've spent their entire life together growing up. And I think part of that was Esau. Esau was 40, I think, when he got married to the 2 Canaanite women that his parents didn't like. So they've been with each other for several decades before that. So it's a big part of his life. big person involved in his life that's not there anymore. And I'm sure he missed him. And when he sees him, he's happy. That's a good brother. I love Esau. I love Esau. He doesn't get a fair shake in this, though he is doing well. But Esau's conflicted because he does great. He seems like a good person, right? Or mostly at least benign at the worst. And even then, he has every reason to be very angry with Jacob. But keep what you sent me. It's a great gift, but you're my brother. Like your money's no good here. Your gifts are no good here. But Jacob says, no, please, I insist. Esau understands why, I think, because Jacob feels regret for what he did, and so he accepts it because it's a way of forgiving it. Because he wants his brother is trying to apologize to him, and he's letting him apologize at that point because he insisted. Good to them. It's always good. That's good. The family is the family again. And then he's meeting all of his nieces, or he's meeting his niece and his nephews, and his sisters-in-law and his servants. I guess servants-in-law. Would you call that with the servants, who have no names at this point? But Jacob said to him, my Lord knows that the children are tender, and that I must care for the ewes and cows that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard just one day, all the animals will die. So let my Lord go on ahead of his servant while I move along slowly at the pace of the flocks and herds before me, and the pace of the children, until I come to my Lord in Seir. Esau said, then let me leave some of my men with you. But why do that? Jacob asked. Just let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord. So that day Esau started on his way back to Seir. Jacob, however, went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelters for his livestock, and that is why the place is called Succoth. After Jacob came from Paddan Aram, he arrived safely at the city of Shechem in Canaan, and camped within sight of the city. For 100 pieces of silver he bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, the plot of ground where he pitched his tent. There he set up an altar and called it El Elohe Israel. El Elohe Israel. Okay. So Jacob's settling down. He's back there. He's made peace with Esau. Everything's pretty good, right? And he's buying stuff and he's settling his flocks. It's good. Dinah and the Shekamites. This will be the last chapter. This will kind of lead in. Maybe it will lead into things. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, Now Dinah, the daughter Leah, had born to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem, son of Hamor and the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and raped her. His heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." You already raped her. I'm sure that's how you impress women when you meet them. You rape them. That's how normal courtship works, right? When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock, so he did nothing about it until they came home. Then Shechem's father Hamor went out to talk to Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come from the fields as soon as they heard what had happened. They were shocked and furious because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. Pretty obvious, right? And you raped a woman with 11 brothers of various ages who are all whose family is blessed by God. I wonder how this is going to end for Shechem. I wonder what Shechem thought. This is a man who's obviously been blessed by God. I've just raped his daughter. She has 11 sons. But Hamor said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give him to her as his wife. Intermarry us. Give us your daughters and take our daughters for yourselves. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it." Yeah, okay. This will make it better. I know my son raped your daughter, but just let him marry her, right? And we'll let you we'll let you, remain here and we'll be friendly with each other. Yeah, that makes it better. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, as I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the young woman as my wife." I don't think he's reading the room very well. He's not reading the room very well, and this has got to come off as pretty cringy, right? Everybody's pissed at him, right? He's like, "Oh yeah, no, so this is okay, right? Whatever you want, just give it to me. Not really sorry I raped her, but I'm really just asking for you to let me marry her, right?" Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, "We can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. We will enter an agreement with you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we will take our sister and go." Their proposal seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man, who was the most honored in all of his father's family, lost no time in doing what he said because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. So the rapist is the most honored of all of the family. Okay. Oh, well, I take that back. That doesn't say the most honorable. He's not necessarily the most honorable, but he's like the most important, I guess. But hey, look, he must be, I mean, he raped her, right? Big no-no. It wasn't as big of a deal back then, but it's still pretty egregious. But he apparently is so dedicated to making her his wife, they said, "Okay, take your foreskin off. You grown man, cut your foreskin off." Oh, and all of your men with you. That had to be a thing to sell to. Imagine going to your servants and going, "Hey guys, because I'm interested in a woman, I'm going to need you to do this to your penis." So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to the men of their city. "These men are friendly towards us," they said. "Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters and they can marry ours. But the men will have to agree to live with us as one people only on the condition that our males be circumcised as they themselves are. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? Let us agree to their terms, and they will settle among us." Oh yeah, okay. So there's another angle here. They're all like, "Oh yeah, once we're all one people, settle their stuff." Sounds like dirty, filthy communism at this point to me. So you know what? You're already condoning rape at this point, but now that you're getting a little bit on the communist side of things. You guys are bad. You guys got to go. All the men who went out to the gate. I'm sorry. All of the men who went out of the gate of the city agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. Doesn't sound like if they were all circumcised voluntarily. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all of their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses. Got him. Got him. Got him, you filthy communists. You rapists. Go ahead. Circumcise yourselves. That's what we want you to do. Then we can all live in peace and harmony. No. While you're still in agony, because you know how much that hurts, we're going to kill you all off. And it was just 2. Well, it says 2 of them took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city. I'm assuming they took more than just them. Maybe it's just 2 of the sons leading the rest of the servants that they brought with them. But maybe just two. Maybe just two. I don't know how big this city was either. Big enough. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and the Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed." But they replied, "Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute?" Boom. End of chapter. All right. And it really, we're going to stop right there because the next chapter really gets away from this. But I love how this ends. Jacob should show a little bit more faith. He knows that God has already told him that his descendants are going to be blessed, and there will be many of them. So he knows that he's going to succeed. So I and my household will be destroyed. He should know that's not going to happen. Maybe he's trying to say it to get Simeon and Levi to understand the gravity of what they did. But Simeon and Levi have a great response. At least it seems like a great response to me. Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute? He raped our sister. He had it coming. He had it coming. I don't know if all the rest of the men in the city did, but if you'd have killed off their one of their favorite people, they're probably going to want to respond. And also, we took all of their herds with us too. But Jacob's got a point. Now he's obnoxious. Jacob, you've been obnoxious for a long time. You're actually not obnoxious at this point. You were obnoxious, but but now they're less. Now he's not going to be a popular man by the Canaanites and the Perizzites. Because now they know that he's not trustworthy, or that he's murdered people in the land, and they might not be as understanding. And you'd rather live in peace with people than in conflict. And what they have done is invited conflict. But again, like I said, you can't get away with murdering our sister or raping our sister, and then acting like it's no big deal. Relatively, just trying to buy off her marriage and not really apologize for what you did. So again, good. Hamor, Shechem, all you people, good. So that gets us done for this evening's reading. And hey, some pretty good, cool things to leave. We see Jacob really turning a corner. Personality-wise, and with his faith, he's growing up. He's getting older. He's doing these great. He's understanding that he was kind of an ass beforehand, and he's trying to move past it. He's asking for forgiveness. And look, I've said this before. Don't we all do things in our late teens and 20s, or in our late teens and early 20s that we look back on and be like, man, I can't believe I behaved that way. I don't know why anybody put up with me. And maybe that was Jacob's problem. Maybe Jacob was just going through his 20s or going through that period of life. And he's just impossible to be around. That's what it felt like. But, we grow older, we get better. We become the people, we grow into the people we need to be. And it seems like that's what Jacob's doing here. So you've heard me badmouth Jacob. Some of my friends have heard me recently just going, man, Jacob's just terrible. But Jacob's dealing with that. Jacob's aware of that, it seems. And that's being aware of the problems that you have and actively asking God, or being humble before God, understanding what your problems are, and trying to work and be a better person, be a better father, be a better husband. This is what Jacob's doing. This is what Jacob's doing, and his brother ended up missing him the whole time. Brother came back, or he came back to his brother. His brother didn't come with 400 men to fight him. He came with 400 men to protect him and escort him back home. Awesome part, and everything's going pretty well until the rape happens, and then you don't go against the family, right? let's see, Simeon and Levi are two Michael Corleones getting revenge at the end. Or no, what was it? Who was the brother in Godfather? Why can't I think of his name? This is awful. But when his sister's husband's beating up on her, and he finds out, and he goes out and just like beats the brakes off of that dude in the middle of the city in front of all of his friends, in front of the entire community. He's just trashing this dude and curb stomping him. And at the end, he says, "You ever touch my sister again, I'll kill you." That's basically what went in here. Oh, and before that, he made them cut their foreskin off. Anyways, so that's enough tonight's reading. I might do some stuff this weekend. I might do some streaming this weekend. I don't know. But again, if you like what you're hearing here, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a comment. Give me your feedback. I really, like I said, I've said it before. This will really go better once we get some folks participating live during this, or even afterwards, and there's some dialogue going back and forth. I don't mind doing this. I'm going to keep doing this, but the value will be much better. So in the meantime, you guys have a great weekend. Be safe and have fun. Take time and reflect. Pray to God. Just have a good time and